Hey folks, this is Bailey from Dank Wargaming.
Hey, this is Heath with Team Table War Hawaii.
And welcome to The Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast, where our aim is to help give Dark Angels players the tactical and hobby skills that they need in order to enjoy this wonderful hobby of ours. I'd like to welcome you to our July episode, where in this month's episode we are going to cover the latest tournament finishes in MetaWatch. Then Heath and I will distill these results into possible future lists for the two of us to try out in our featured segment, like what combos and whatnot are the best, it seems like, to us. Then we will display our hobby challenge results from last month with the Inner Circle companions. And then last but not least, we will check in and close with our community comments.
A lot of those from last month, huh?
There are a lot of those. We are probably going to have to do some highlights because we have two big videos. I think our last two videos, Heath, have like almost 1,000 views, and so
man,
combined,
that's literally the highest performing channel's ever had, I think. So thank you very much for your
everybody.
continued viewership and participation. And so oh man, all right, new releases.
All right, yep. So
done.
Yep, new releases, still nothing. Yep, nothing for Heresy, nothing for us. So hopefully we'll get some cool, fun stuff in the not too distant future. But in the meantime, we're going to look at the MetaWatch. So we have the ITA 40K Singles GT. This is in Ipswich, Australia. This is on end of June 21st. In fifth place, we have David Truman playing the Dark Storm, right? The Dark Iron Storm Spearhead list with plenty of tanks. So he got fifth place there. So congratulations.
I got the list right here if you want to see it.
Oh yeah, let's go for it.
All right. So the name of the list is the Ipswich Tank Association.
Love it.
Okay. So we have Azrael, a lieutenant with combi weapon, a tech marine with the target augury web, a tech marine with master of machine war, and then the vehicles are a gladiator lancer, then 2 gladiator reapers. Correction, 3 gladiator reapers.
Ooh.
Then 3 destructor pattern predators.
Okay,
then 3 scout, 2 vindicators, and 3 scout squads.
Yeah, that is that's some spice.
That's just a lot of DACA. That's just a lot of DACA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So interesting that there is literally nothing for Azrael to join. He just stands somewhere and generates CP, which is a bold move. Oh, sorry. And lastly, there is a Calidus assassin in here.
Okay, so the Calidus is still there. All right. Well, and I'd point out there were no Dreadnoughts or Storm Ravens in that list.
Yeah, I mean, we've commented briefly in
the
last couple episodes about Vindicators, and Vindicators are, I think, really good. They do have 2-up armor, right? You can shoot their big blast FU gun in combat, right? And that it's a D6 plus 3 shots, right? And it's a high strength, high D6 damage, decent AP. And man, triple destructor and double reaper is just so much firepower. Right.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking this might be it's possible that this is a this might be a Pariah Nexus list, because it says that it was uploaded for inspection on June 15th, and the Gladiator Reapers are 150 points. So that kind of strikes me as an old style list.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but let's double check what the points on the Reapers are right now. Yeah, Reapers are 160 now, so this is an old style list.
Okay.
But I mean, this would be 1, 2, 3, 30 points more expensive.
Like one upgrade on one of the Tech Marines.
Yeah. Yeah. And seeing as you can only do the target augury on one thing now, it's not an aura anymore. Is that a thing that you could do without? Possibly. Yeah, but still being able to give +1 to hit and repair vehicles, I'm into that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Or maybe the combi weapon lieutenant. I don't know. Yeah, it's just once again, it's a what they call it, a stat checklist. So everything that you're presented to interact with is like toughness 10, right, or higher. It's
Yeah.
medium to heavy battle tank, right? And so, oh, you brought guns that don't interact with toughness 10. Too bad. So, and in
Right.
this thing has
Right.
just a absolutely terrifying 24-inch range shooting. Those Reapers, man, like the sustained hits 2 into infantry on those big twin onslaught cannons, and getting reroll wounds on something that has devastating wounds is awesome. And it's all damage 1, so
Yeah.
damage reduction doesn't really check it. So yeah, okay,
Yeah,
there you
and
go.
I'd assume then, like sorry, I was gonna say in a counter matchup, right? Like, go find the other guy's Thunderstrike and blow it up, and then suddenly their whole army can't interact with you outside of the oath target, basically the whole rest of the game, and you can't kill enough tanks
Yeah,
fast enough for that to matter that
yeah,
way.
yeah. For something like this, like exposing the Thunderstrike is going to get it shot. So
Yeah.
okay,
All
all
right.
right. Let's
So
see.
thank you and congratulations, David, on getting 5th place. So we're gonna go next to the Built Forge Tough GT. So this is in Chaska, uh, Minnesota,
Minnesota.
United States. And this is going to be June. Yep, Vikings, Viking Land. And June 29th, 2024. We have a first place win here. This is Alex Vian. He has a list that is properly titled "Back on My BS," but he spelled it all out. But we're not. But since we like to keep it as
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
nice and clean,
We're
so
just
you can
gonna let
listen to
that.
it
We're
at
just gonna
work, we're gonna
leave
let
that
it
one to your
ride.
imagination. Let it
Yeah.
ride. Okay.
So he's
Go
here.
for it.
So
What you
we
got?
got the Apothecary Biologus with fire discipline. So we're in the Gladius Task Force. We've got Asmodai. We've got Azrael. We have the Intercessors. We have the 7-seat Impulsor with the Shield Dome. We have the 5-pack of Jump Packy Boys. In the Assault Intercessors, we have 3 squads of Deathwing Knights, 2 with maces, 1 with swords. The Eradicator Squad, Fatty Big Squad of Inner Circle Companions, Land Raider Redeemer, Scout Squad. And when you go through the Goonhammer armor where I pulled this, the guy writing the Goonhammer article was the guy that played him in top table last game. And so we got some good details of like Asmodai goes in with the Companions, goes in the Impulsor, and that's the delivery, the protection unit, because there is no invuln, right? So that's how he was getting those around.
Yeah.
And it
I
sounded
I
like they were
really
doing player place terrain.
really player place terrain. That adds such a
Yeah,
unique
and that was
dimension to things, and it's just like a whole nother level of skill. It's another skill metagame that you need to practice specifically.
yeah, well, because it sounded like from what he was saying is that he let the Dark Angels player place the first piece of terrain, and what he did was take a big L and put it in the middle of the board and hide the middle objective, and then his army just ran up into that L, and the Tau player was like, I can't shoot you
Well,
now. And it's like, yep,
yeah, and now
that's how this
all my
works.
Deathwing Knights and everything are just kind of like, oh, you're gonna set foot in this midboard. I'm just gonna charge out and hit you. Yeah. I think like Asmodai with the companions is a really good pairing because reroll hits interact so well with the either lethal or sustained on their weapon profiles. Yeah, you lose the durability of the invul save, but like man, yeah, if you're careful positioning and you know what you're doing with consolidates and everything, and you can get them back into line of cover or line of sight protection, it may not be required. So, uh,
Yeah.
so it looks like his win path was so first game was into orcs. Second game was
Yeah.
into nids. Third game was into world eaters.
Okay, so he fought a big baddie and beat him.
Yeah,
That's
with
good.
world. Yeah, it definitely had Angron in there. Fourth game was demons. Uh, this is literally the
Okay.
shortest list I've ever seen. It just says Shalaxi Hellbane, Demonettes, Celeste, Bloodthirster, 3 Flamers, 6 Flamers, Lord of Change, Kairos Fate Weaver.
That's pretty big. There's some biggie boys in there.
There's some big, and the Changeling. There's some big chonkies in there. Yeah, and some Exalted Flamers. Yeah, so it's just a super simple. And then, as you said, last was Tau. So, and that demon list these days, that demon list is tough. So, yeah. All right. Well, congratulations. This is I think this is a kind of prototypical of what we're going to see with a lot of Dark Angels, top tech, in this upcoming season, at least until the first round of Nerf bats hit. So,
the Nerf bats.
Nerf bats. Gotta watch out for the Nerf bats. So, okay.
So congratulations.
So let's come back to let's come back to this when we after we finish reviewing all the meta stuff. And I think this is a good place to start. Our what's the kind of becoming the general consensus? Okay.
Yep. So we got the PKH by BAC Warhammer 40k GT. This was in Scotland, 33 players, 5 round. Also took place June 29th. We have 5th place finish from Duncan Brown. He's playing more Dark Storm Spearhead. So we have Dark Angels with the Storm Raven. So,
okay, I have the list right here.
Rolling. Let's go.
I have the list right here. So we've got the name of the list is Dark Angel Solo Storm Raven. So that gives you some hints. All right. So you got Azzy, Phobos Librarian, Tech Marine, no enhancements on the Tech Marines. A full squad of Assault Intercessors, so 10 Assault Intercessors with a Power Fist on the sergeant.
Yes.
I know this is in your right up your alley, right? You have a Ballistus Dreadnought. You have another Ballistus Dreadnought. You have 2 Gladiator Lancers, 2 Inceptor squads with Plasma for the droppy tech.
Okay.
A 5-man Infiltrator squad for the Phobos Librarian, a Ravenwing Dark Shroud, a Redemptor, and a Storm Raven gunship.
Okay.
Because if you bring a Storm Raven, you have to bring a Dreadnought. Yeah. Now, I think the 2 Ballistas are actually really interesting in here because they have their reroll hits built into their data sheet against things that are above half strength, which basically lets you use the Iron Storm reroll on their wound, which is really nice, right? And so all this, the Dreadnought, the Lancers, all that stuff is just built-in reroll for. So it doesn't require Oath of Moment to be at maximum effectiveness. So the Gladiator Lancer, the Inceptors and the Storm Raven, right? Like whatever they're going to get targeted with, that is what you put the Oath on, right? So.
Right.
Yeah. So Azrael goes to the Assault Intercessors, I think, here. As I think we were talking last episode and a little bit before the show, Assault Intercessors are really actually a good pairing for Azrael because they have that reroll wounds rule. Ones if you're always and everything if you're on an objective, and that benefits the whole unit. So Azrael's Sword of Secrets gets reroll wounds, which is just nasty.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then him giving them the 4 pinball save makes it it's a pretty choppy murder death ball.
Yeah, so, and sustained hits, so those chain swords just go burr.
Yeah, they're just going to go burr, right? And that Power Fist, and yeah. Now the only thing downside to it is the opportunity cost of what you're not putting Azrael with, but man,
right?
It's a nice punchy, basically like countercharge threat, right? You want to try and get something close to any of my vehicles? I will just roll in here and just chop you to ribbons. So
right.
Okay, so
I love it. And then we've got Battle Ready Wargaming's Southern Showdown. This is 50-player 5-round GT in Vedesta, Georgia. It's funny. I've been to Vedesta, Georgia several times now because when I go down to Florida for Tampa Open, you have to go through Vedesta, coming and going. So good to know that there's a Warhammer community around there. I'll have to go look into that next time I'm there. This is also on the 25th of June. Chris Reeder, 5th place finish, also playing Dark Storm Spearhead, but this has double the Storm Ravens. So as much as
Twice as many
people
Storm Ravens.
thought this might, yeah, people thought that this was dead, it is apparently very much still alive.
So the name of this list is I don't really know what to say here. I guess he's taking advantage of the fact that there's no character limit on the names of the list, because it's straight up. It's a straight up either a poem or song lyrics.
Oh no!
The last line of which is, like it starts with, "Well, I never said I was a clever man, but I know enough to understand." Right, and I will save you from the rest of my spoken word poetry. But yeah, go take a look.
Funny.
So,
gotcha.
So, hewing a little bit more towards the traditional Ironstorm style, you have Azrael, 3 Tech Marines with all the usual, right? Augury Web, Adept, and Master Machine War, 1 on each. Then the Dark Shroud, triple Redemptor, 3 Scouts, a Thunderstrike, and 2 Storm Ravens.
Yeah. Sounds about it.
Nothing for Azrael to join, and there you go. This is how we know this list works. And this is, once again, from June 20th. So this is probably pre-data slate, because the Augury Web and Master Machine War have the aura tag next to them. So there you go.
Gotcha. All right, so this might not be around much longer then, because it's that old list.
Yep, and the Storm Ravens are listed at 260. So, well, I don't know. It says Storm Raven Gunship 260. And I think that is with the new points, right?
It's pretty close.
Yeah, I think that's with
either
the new
way.
Points. So whatever.
That's a top 10% finish, though. 5th out of 50 players, so that's a good deal.
Yeah. Well, I'm not no.
How do they call that? 90th percentile or whatever? Is that what they call that?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, look at that list.
Yep. And for some reason, it's double spaced, so it takes up a lot of room in the show notes. All right.
That is hilarious.
So, all right, that's all the ones that from our usual source. So,
and now we're going to use friend Gerard.
Yeah. Let's pop over to the esteemed Angel's Keep from our friend Gerard Chartier. So he's got some stuff in here that Goonhammer didn't pick up on. So what you got?
All right, so we've got a list here. It says first list is from the J-Town Throwdown in Jonesboro, Arkansas, 43 players. Bryce Watson, who I feel like we've talked about Bryce several times. That name looks very familiar. Got second place, going 5-0 with Inner Circle Task Force. Look at his list. We've got Azrael, Ancient Terminator Armor with Deathwing Assault, Chaplain and Terminator Armor, Judiciar, Assault Intercessor Squad, Impulsor, Assault Intercessors with Jump Packs Squad, and then triple Deathwing Knights, Infiltrator Squad, Vatty Squad of Inner Circle Companions, 2 Destructors, and 5 Scouts, and then a Calidus Assassin.
So the Deathwing Knights were 2 squads of maces, 2 squads of maces, and 1 squad of swords. So and then obviously 2 characters to join them. I'm a big fan of the Ancient Terminator Armor because he gives them the OC, and then obviously I think the Chaplain's going to go with the swords. But one of the things I'm like about what Gerard's doing over there is he has linked in this article a Facebook discussion of Bryce's list with the owner, the pilot of the list, breaking down his tactics. So you're going to get a bit more on that, by looking at Gerard's blog about kind of what the actual tactics behind the tech are, because the list is, I would probably say, less than 40% of the the required pieces to actually play this at a high level. So.
Right. I'd also point out that you still have to keep the banners high with the Ancient, so you get the +1 to hit. Then when you drop below half strength, you get +1 to wound too. So you've got 2 sources of +1 to wound there.
That's a really hard That's a really hard thing to interact with because, like, well, one, Deathwing Knights don't need +1 to hit usually, unless you're going into something that has -1 to hit. Like, well, I guess Inner Circle Companions for the mirror
Right.
match, uh, and then getting below half strength, but not wiping the squad with +1 is like it basically means you have
Right.
just the sergeant left, right? It's really tough to do. So I wouldn't count on that +1 to wound, but yeah. So anyway, yeah, like there's a whole comment, I just clicked on this link in his blog, and there's a whole discussion about this list, the Inner Circle Task Force. So with a good set of discussion. So
Something to do
all right,
tonight after we get done editing, right? Before we go to bed.
indeed,
And so he's got we got a path to win. So for round 1, he beat up on Astra Militarum. Round 2, he beat up on Grey Knights. Round 3, beat up on Thousand Suns. Round 4, Death Watch. And then round 5, he only won by 3 points against a Space Marine Ultramarines Vanguard list that had the fatty block of Centurion Devastators.
yeah,
So,
97 to 94, which has got to be a nail biter. That's a great top table right there.
yeah, that must have been. That's one of those where you just walk away and you're just like, you know what, that was worth it.
Yeah,
like
that was a worthy game for the top table.
All right, going on, we have the Sheffield 40K Super Major in Sheffield, England, 256 players. We have Ben Jones going 5-1 to finish in 4th place with the Gladius Task Force. So we've got the short version of the list here called the Dangles. The previous list was called Secret Agendas and Secret Missions. So this one is called Dangles. I realize that these are titles and not just random pieces of information. Yeah. So the Dangles, they've got Azrael, a captain, double librarian, lieutenant with fire discipline, 5 assault intercessors, 5 regular intercessors, the impulsor, double jump pack assault intercessors, double knights, 10 hellblasters, double chunky squads of inner circle companions, and double scouts. And so this is where we saw that tech discussion of what goes with the inner circle companions. Well, we're doubling down on librarians for the invuln with the inner circle companions to give them some durability. And then you have Lieutenant and Azrael, right, that can hop into the Hellblaster squad or potentially the captain and lieutenant, as was talked here, because there's also the idea that Azrael could go into the inner circle companions.
Yeah,
Or the
I'm really
the assault intercessors.
The assault intercessors. I really don't think that putting Azrael and a lieutenant with fire discipline in the same squad is the right choice because you're wasting Azrael's sustained hits. Yeah, giving them a 4 pinball save is great, but as Toby pointed out, 4 pinball saves aren't that durable when you really put your mind to it.
Right.
So I think that the captain and the lieutenant, so the captain's going to give them the reduced cost stratagem. The lieutenant's going to bring the fire discipline to the table, which with Hellblasters is just great. So now I think that he's got a good a piece here because he's got the librarians, which obviously go to the inner circle companions, and he has an assault intercessor squad and an intercessor squad, and he can choose based on the matchup which one of those 2 5-man squads Azrael's going to go with. Does he need to sit Azrael back in the back and play safe, or does he need to push Azrael forward and take maximum advantage of his rerolls? Right? I don't know. That's a situational matchup you can call. So, having the intercessors to get 2 battle line units is good, so that you're not getting a secret mission really easy, and having the intercessors to hold your home objective / other objectives, right? And then the option to be able to put Azrael with the reroll wound assault intercessor squad and go forth is really nice. So
let's see here. Round 1, played against Necrons, big win. And then round 2, more Necrons. Must have been exciting. Round 3, even more
Necrons. He just cut his way. He cut his way through a whole ass Doom world. Just straight.
Yeah, that is rough. Beat some Chaos Demons, beat some Tau, and then lost in the final 4 against AdMech, 71-99. So even
I
then,
played
that's
against
not
AdMech.
terrible.
I played it against AdMech for the first time in 10th edition a couple weeks ago, and man, breachers are really good. Like so
Oh
much
yeah,
3 damage
yeah.
shooting. Anyway, I won, but wow, that those that list has some tools. Anyway, okay.
Oh yeah. All right, going on to the next list, we've got here. Whose name is this? Daniel Guarnarcia.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Guarnarcia. Yeah, something like that. And this is the TGX Warhammer 40k event in Ontario, Canada, with 97 players. He got fourth place with Gladius Task Force.
That's a big tournament. Wow.
Yeah. And he's got the some big boys in this list because we've got Azrael, then the Apothecary Biologus with the Fire Discipline, so we know what's coming later. Tech Marine, Assault Intercessors. This is the part I like. Triple Assault Jump Pack Intercessors, followed up with triple Deathwing Knights, the Fatty Squad of Eradicators, Gladiator Reaper, Infiltrators, Repulsor, Calidus Assassin.
Okay.
So there's a whole lot of options in there.
So yeah, so Gerard's got some interesting discussion here. Basically says that he thinks the Deathwing Knights go out first, right? Because when Deathwing Knights run across the board, you either you have to shoot them because if they touch you, you're going to get hurt really bad, and they're really good at soaking up fire. Okay? And 3 squads of Deathwing Knights is just it's just that extra little touch that a lot of lists aren't going to be able to deal with all 3 of them at the same time. So, and especially in Gladius, you've got the option for, on turn 1 or turn 2 or turn 3, whichever you need, to just go ahead and, kick it into next gear and get the advanced charge. So, then the Repulsor full of Eradicators is like we've seen a lot of this,
yeah,
right? And I've got some feelings about it. I'm not really sure, right? But also notice that there's no scouts.
Yeah, no
scouts.
The Calidus Assassin is there, but there are no scouts for sneaky scouty things.
There's infiltrators to kind of play that push middle like hold kind of function that Toby was talking about if you need it, right? Or if you have a deep strike threat, right? You're playing Hypercrypt or Grey Knight, something like that. They can sit your backfield and babysit your home objective. So, and you've got the Calidus to do the uppy downy secondaries, right? Calidus will be able to score sabotage and all that kind of stuff. She's really good for that sort of thing, and she's low op. So yeah. So, okay, man. This is a cool list. It's just 5 squads Deathwing Knights. They are really mobile like once, right? And so if you're playing against a list that's very mobile, I think you're gonna have a hard time. You gotta be real smart with your movement, right? To keep them a continuous threat. So
no, I get you. All right, and so we'll come back to that we kind of distill all of it down, kind of see the threads. And then finally, we're going to look at James Bedford, who was also at that Sheffield 40K Super Major. He got 30th out of 196 players. So I guess of that 256, they didn't have everybody show up, but that happens. But he went 4-1, and his list is GDA. And then you've got Azrael, Captain in Terminator Armor, Lieutenant Fire Discipline, the Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, 5 Intercessors, double Jump Pack Assault Intercessors, triple Deathwing Knights, double Hellblasters, 10-man Hellblaster squads,
boom,
5 Infiltrators, and then double Scouts. So here was the hot smoking gun of no Toby Bennett, we don't want to listen to you, we're going to do what we want list.
Or do,
right
I don't know.
I saw some... and then when it comes to the Knights, the last list, it was all Macy. This list, it's double Sortie, 1 Macy, as Gerard put so eloquently.
Interesting.
It's fun reading his little his descriptions. Yeah, guys.
So
you have less
he lists Deathwing Knights.
killing.
he lists Deathwing Knights as 5 awesome chonky Macy boys, or awesome chunky sortie boys. So, yeah. All right, man. Really, this is the first time I think we've seen people lean more into the swords than the maces, which does make me wonder why. Right.
Well, and in this case, I feel like they're looking at it. They have double Hellblasters for vehicles and monsters, so you need the swords to help clear out infantry. I guess
one way to think about it is in Gladius, you have access to Honor the Chapter on the which on the charge basically makes you wound on 4s against everything except Land Raiders and Repulsors. So he's like, well, I'll just take the extra attack in that case.
Right. So, right.
And with a captain and Terminator armor, he can do that for free. So, yeah.
No, I like that. And then some other stuff I thought was important to point out down here is that Gerard had is he looked at like the win rates for detachments, and guess what was the best winning detachment, Heath, for Dark Angels?
Well, I'm looking at the article right now, so I'll spoil it for you. Oh. It's an Unforgiven task force.
Yeah, 60%.
This just goes to show you.
Points out.
Yeah, statistics are. You got to know the numbers behind the statistics, because there was one player who ran it and won 3 of the 5 games. So, that's that's data scatter for you.
Yeah. You had much better numbers basically off Gladius Task Force, looking at 53%, where you have people with the 4 and 1 or 4 better than like the whatever in 1 lists. You had 16 people playing that. Company of Hero, Hunters got 50% win rate with 3 out of 6. The 2 Ironstorm lists, we're looking at 40% win rate. You had 2 people with Vanguards that got 36%. Now, here's what I found. This is, again, talking numbers is interesting. The most played list this weekend was the Inner Circle Task Force. But if you take out Bryce's 6 wins, everybody else, or it was the second most played detachment with 9 people, but if you take out everybody else, it drops to a 37% or a 28% win rate. So basically, if you're not Bryce Watson, you have a 28% win rate with this list. And again, some of this he's saying is like, some of it depends on the tournaments, right? If you're at a 5 round versus a 6 round, that's going to skew things, or a 3 round RTT. The Firestorm also had a terrible time at the 17% win rate.
Yeah, one person took it to a 6 round event and won 1 game. So rip. Yeah,
but looking at the Inner Circle Task Force, right? People got super stoked about it because you get to bring your Terminators again, and apparently there's a high tech ceiling on it because you can be like Bryce and have a undefeated tournament, or everybody else could be everybody else looking at a sub 30% win rate. So it's definitely something. What I take from that is that it's a high skill, or just it could be somebody you went into a meta where everybody has experience in tech for fighting Deathwing Terminators, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're going to bring it." So that because that's always a possibility as well. It depends on your local meta what people are expecting, but I do find it interesting that like a lot of people brought it, but only really one person seemed statistically to have a great amount of success on it, which goes down to there's a lot of things that you can learn. It's not necessarily about the rules on the face value. It's about the players and it's about the pilot, right? With the lists, right? If you have the right pilot, you have the right basic game skills, the intangibles, the positioning, the line of sight training and discipline, like those things matter a lot more than I can
more than the tech
hits
than the tech.
And
yeah. And also like especially with the Inner Circle Task Force, not having the ability to advance a charge, you're going to have to be super disciplined and precise with your deployment and with what your movement strategy is. Because once you commit your stuff somewhere, it's kind of going to be in that area, right? So yeah. All right, so that's
well, thank you, Gerard. Thank you for
big old rundown, and yeah, thanks
digging
for
all that up, Gerard.
That's honestly a much better analysis than we generally get from Goonhammer, because it tends to focus on what we care about, which is the Dark Angels. So I think we should probably come back and use
exactly.
If he's going to do this more often, then we should do that. So, all right,
yeah. All right, so
okay,
so kind of moving to the main feature, looking at big picture, right there. What we saw a lot of in most of those lists were triple Deathwing Knights. So if you got Deathwing Knights, doesn't matter what they're armed with. Looks like there's a nice mix of swords and maces that seem to be fairly prominent. There is some sort of picky-uppy movie, either between the Calidus Assassin or the Scouts. Notice it wasn't very common to have infiltrators and scouts. There's only seemed to be one list that had that. The lack of inceptors I found interesting. That there was really only one list we went over that had them at all.
Man, inceptors are so expensive. That's kind of the that's kind of that really is the thing. They're just so expensive that they take. If you're not going to be doing something that really leans into what they do, which is give them the uppy part of the uppy downing equation, I'm not sure. Being able to rapid ingress them in and yank somebody's objective is great. But 110 points for three of them. It's just super expensive. So
yeah. I also noticed that people are either taking Eradicators or they're taking Hellblasters. There's not a Hellblaster Eradicator set up.
Yeah. I think because Eradicators. I really do want to talk more about this Eradicator thing. You be cool with that?
Gotcha.
So
yeah,
okay,
go for it.
Yeah, we've seen this a lot, and I don't know where exactly it came from, but it started really popping up a lot on the Facebooks and the Reddit and all that kind of stuff. Is 6 Eradicators with an Apothecary Biologus and Gladius with Fire Discipline. So what does this unit do? Well, one, you're gonna have 6 chonky Gravis bodies, right? So T6, 3 wounds, and you've got you can have that's 4 Melter rifles and possibly 2 multi-meltas. So which I believe you would have. So that's 10 Melta shots, right? And then with the Biologus, you get Fire Discipline, right? So you'll get sustained hits and lethal because on 6 up. And if you're in the Devastator Doctrine, then you will get criticals on 5s. So that's a good interaction because into vehicles, you don't need Oath to get rerolls. Vehicles and monsters, they reroll all hits and wounds. So if you think that you can roll 5 up on 10 dice a couple of times, then it's going to be pretty efficient. So now I really so you're going to jump out and you're going to just ace whatever it is that you're shooting at, most likely, right? You don't need the extra AP from the from Storm of Fire, right? You probably don't need cover. Ignore cover from Storm of Fire because those things are AP 4. So
right.
Yeah, unless you're shooting the Land Raiders, doesn't really matter. The thing is, you really need to be in the Devastator Doctrine for it to matter, and those weapons have an 18-inch range. So they're not long, right? And so you're going to have to transport them to get them where they need to go. And it's going to be either an Eradicator, either a Repulsor or a Land Raider, right? Everybody's using Repulsors these days because they're much cheaper, right? And they have that extra seat to hold the 7 guys. So, but in order to get that crit on 5s, you have to be in the Devastator Doctrine, right? And because you start the round inside the transport, most likely, you can't use the adaptive strategy to put them in the Devastator Doctrine. So you have to use your global one to do it. So now this could be one of those the turn you're in Devastator, you move them up, you jump them out, right? And then you shoot, you kill 1 or 2 things. Maybe you split fire because they have the benefit of the the rerolls come from their native datasheet ability, so that you don't have to put it into something to use Oath of Moment, so you can split fire and get it, which is nice. And then maybe if somebody moves close to you, you can use the Gladius reactive move stratagem to move behind cover or something like that. And then the next turn you can. It's just like I kind of think that they're just going to get shot because they're going to have to be real close to something. They're going to be exposed, right? And without a whole lot of ability to, get back out of the line of fire, right? That's a 180. It's like it's an expensive unit that is going to basically just ace one, maybe two things. Anyway, that's kind of my thoughts. I haven't personally played it, but I see it all over the place. And obviously it's really good. It's really killy. But I think you're kind of running into that, one-click dead problem we were talking about last week. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I can see where it come from, where it's going to come again down to piloting meta and understanding where you're at. Because, yeah, like if you handed me these 6 guys in a tank and said, it really kills tanks or whatever, the first thing I'm going to do is go over and find the first tank I can find, and I'm going to try it out on it, and, it'll be something like a Rhino with 10 tactical Marines in. It's like, oh, cool, I blew up the Rhino with 10 tactical Marines in it. And then my opponent goes, yeah, so, now that you've put them out in the open, here comes my big nasty tank to kill your guys, and congratulations, you just traded 6 super good anti-tank dudes for a Rhino. And I'll be like, yes, this is why I don't follow meta things, because this is the kind of stuff I do when I try and follow what the meta does.
Yeah, so it's 190 points for 6 Eradicators. Then it's another 85 points for a Biologus with Fire Discipline. So now you're at 265, if my math is correct. Yeah. Maybe 275. Okay. I don't have a calculator on me yet. And then to get the transport, you need another 180 point repulsor. So you're on the upper side of the 400s, right? For that, basically that little package, which is a quarter of your list. I don't know. I said it will require discipline. Now, yes, obviously they're a little more resilient than the Hellblasters, because they're T6. They have 3 wounds each, but they're not that much more resilient. And there's not 10 of them. There's 6 with a character. So anyway, that's just my I haven't seen it yet. And if you run into something where you don't have any vehicles and monsters, then they kind of do lose a little bit of their efficacy, I think. And like let alone trying to get them with a 9 inches to get all the Melter rules triggered. Anyway, I just wanted to use my platform to say I don't get it. I haven't quite seen it yet, so it seems a little one tricky to me. It's not the Space Marine toolkit Swiss Army knife unit that you're used to seeing. And I think you can trade versatility for like if you have durability, right? Like Deathwing Knights, they're really good at one thing, which is killing things in close combat, right? But they're okay. That's okay because they're so durable that they're going to be able to do that for 2 or 3 turns, kind of no matter what. See what I'm saying? I don't know. It's just my opinion.
Right. Well, and then they also
Please
have
comment.
They also have Sorry. They also have This we didn't lose signal. I'm just listening.
Yeah.
Because that's been a problem recently. But no, with Deathwing Knights, right? You can put them in tanks if you have to. You can deep strike them, and then they can march up the board. And with Gladius, right, they have advanced and charge 1 turn. So there's that 1 turn where if they move a little bit faster than what people are anticipating, and it can be devastating when people are not expecting you to roll a 5 or a 6 on your 5-inch move guys, and they've suddenly doubled their movement, and they're in there. I think you might know something about that, Heath. I'm not sure, but you might.
Yeah, I do, and I was on the dealing end, not the receiving end of it, in my game this last week. So
there you go. That's what we like to hear. Well, and then I also like, especially that we're looking at this Chonky Boy Eradicator list where it has the 3 Assault Intercessor squads with jump packs, that there's just so much speed and ability to interfere with things and block off things, and that's probably where you'd have concern with, well, how do I protect my eradicators after they kill their primary target from everything else? Well, if you've got jump pack intercessors deep striking in, flanking in, jumping in and out from behind buildings and pinning things in areas where they can't get line of sight on the eradicators, I feel like that would be their job. Now they're going to die doing it, but you're sacrificing a sub 100 point unit to keep your, as you pointed out, your almost 500 point wombo combo unit from getting blown off the board. And so that, to me, at that point, that's a part of the game that, again, it's hard because for some people, and we're looking at tech because people look at their list and they go, I need all these points to just kill stuff. Like I need everything in my army has to kill things. And it's like, no, sometimes you spend points on things that their only job is to go out and die, but they have to die in a very specific way, doing a very specific task that allows everything else to stay alive or complete some other
for the Emperor
task. And that's sort of like, exactly. And that's like that's a skill that's hard to learn, because when you spend so much time building and painting your models, you want all of them to like get to play the whole game and do stuff. And like sometimes it's like, no, I spent hours building this one unit that its only job is to go out and die. Like I've played enough horde armies where it's like, yes, these 30 boys go out and die every game because the other 60 termagants or whatever that I have are going to try and win me the game. But the first 30, you just go out there and die, buddies. That's all you do. And I wasted way too much time painting you to do that simple job.
To quote Shrek, some of you will die, but that is a sacrifice that I am willing to make. So
it's true.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what I think you're saying is you're saying that you protect them via threat saturation, right? Say, right. these things bad touched you, but also there's 5 other things that are going to do that same thing, and if you shoot them, these other things are going to touch you, right? And so that kind of falls into a concept in the military that's called time on target, which is, hey, if I, my artillery strike comes in 1Z, 2Z, 1Z, 2Z, the first round's hit, everyone sounds the alarm, they dig in, they take cover, they secure things, then okay, right? But if you time the barrage or you time the missile strike, right, or so that everything hits at the same time, it overwhelms the defenses, right, and makes it so that a lot more stuff's going to get through, right? So if you time your advance so that everything is a threat right now, you're going to overwhelm your opponent's ability to make decisions about it and interact with it, right? And you're going to be a lot more effective than if you just feed them stuff 1Z, 2Z at a time, right? So that may be
exactly.
Yeah, which is why, like, having, in a game like this, which is kind of an old school structure, which is the I go, you go, I go, you go, right? And there's a limited number of activations, right? Having more activations is kind of more advantageous than less activations, right? So, that's why like Imperial Knights are really cool, but if you've got 4 big knights, that is less good than having 1 big knight and 12 small knights, 12 baby knights. Because they will just, by the way the rules and the format of the game are structured, be able to interact with more stuff. So, and even because you don't have to declare what weapons go where and all that kind of stuff at the same time, you have more information available to you to make better decisions as you progress down your firing / charging / fighting order. So, and the concept of time on target is all about, overwhelming that decision tree. So, okay, so that's how and that's a general, in principle, good idea. Now what do you do with that? Like, is that how you protect your eradicators? I guess you can, right? And then they're gonna have to make a decision. Is this the thing I do need to kill this turn, right? Can I deal with the Deathwing Knights in my face for a turn or 2 while I try and eliminate this threat? I don't know, right? But okay, so
and
we have seen
the thing where I was going to say, this is where like the secondary system can be rough when you're drawing cards, because you get tempted to mess up your timing because you'll draw a card that says, I have to kill this thing this turn to get points. And you're like, I'm not ready for my, to synchronize attack. Like I have to put something out of position to try and score points and trade. And is that what I really want to do? And so that's one of those other like deeper tactical bits when you're looking with the cards the way it is, when you're not using fixed, is you have to sometimes have to decide, is it worth sacrificing these victory points this turn and not getting another card next turn because I just can't go.
I have
Like, I can't
to,
do this
yeah,
this turn, which is
I have
also
to
where
play, I have to play the board state, not necessarily do the thing that
right.
like not take the points in front of me. If I take the points in front of me, I'm going to lose points in the following turns because I won't have the pieces to play them. I think that's one of the points where like using like the tabletop battles app is really nice because it shows you when you're using that app what
Yeah.
objectives or what secondary cards you have not yet used. So you can look at that and say, okay, what do I still have in my deck? Right. And what are the, like
Right.
on turn 3, 4, 5, you're like, okay, I still have cards that I can draw that are good, right? That I can score. Or like I had to pull and I discarded the cards that I could score in the future. I don't know. So anyway, it's more information that
I
you
see what
can
you're saying.
use to realize. And also kind of on the same thing, knowing what's still in your opponent's deck. Like if you know that they already drew,
Right.
right? Like signals or whatever the equivalent of it these days, right? Or sabotage,
Right.
right? You don't need to keep stuff to screen that because it doesn't really matter. So
No, I see what you're saying. No, yeah, that's good. It's a good call. Looking at it from both ways. All right, so we talked
okay,
about knights, hellblasters a little bit. What else we
I do want
feeling?
to like more of the nights. I think we've seen a split
Okay.
this month on people taking knights unassisted by characters or adding characters to them. What's
Right.
your opinion on knights needing a character to lead them or benefiting, not to attach a requirement, like using the word need. Is it worthwhile? Is it too many points? Right? What do you think?
Well, so like for
We've
example, I
seen, I
like
think,
the well, I like the captain, like where they've got the
mm-hmm,
Gladius Task Force, where you have the captain and Terminator with the one squad, because then you get to do Honor the Chapter for free or at the reduced cost, right? So you have that option there. Plus, he lets you reroll your charges, so that gives you the opportunity to move them faster. So, like if you had one squad that you were deep striking every turn, or it gives you the option of a more reliable deep strike if you did want to deep strike one Deathwing Knight squad,
yeah,
or if you're coming out of you're advancing and charging, you get to reroll to maybe get a bigger charge if your charge wasn't big enough or you failed it the first time. So I'm
mm-hmm,
always a big fan of that because we've learned throughout the editions, the more movement gimmicks you can put into Terminators, the more efficient they are. And so the fact that the Captain Terminator armor gives you that free reroll on your charges is a big win there, especially again giving you, it opens up the deep strike, because I don't see, and I haven't done it in a long time, just people deep striking things without characters and trying to charge with them. Like it's just not a strategy people have used because of how unreliable that charge roll is. That like if you're going to do it, you got to have some sort of gimmick, because most of the time people just put stuff on the board. Like I can remember a time where like you wouldn't put just all like the idea of putting your Terminators on the board to start the game was silly, but like that is just now like a mainstream, like been a mainstream like concept for a couple of years now. Of like, no, the Terminators don't, they have all these deep strike rules, even though the lore says they come in from
they
teleport chambers
teleport
and all
into
that.
battle. Yeah,
Yeah, people are just like, no, the actual way to play them is they start on the board. You start them as a lot of times as forward or within cover as you can, where they have all their benefits and buffs, and then you scoot them over to the closest objective they can get to, and they go, come and get it. And that learning that tactic was hard for me because I'm just like, oh, I like to have stuff in deep strike because it's a threat. People have to plan for it. They can't just jump out and get me. And then it's like, no, actually, they just need to come on the board and be a big threat, especially when you're going into opponents like Dark Eldar or Drukhari and whatnot that are fast moving things that'll go, oh, you have stuff in deep strike? Well, good luck getting them on the board
yeah,
because you won't.
yeah. Yes, against stuff that's going to be able to screen me out, I don't want to risk not being able to get those units in play. Against things that can't really do that, different story, different story. But and yeah, I think that like I would have to have something that, like I said, a captain or something along those lines, and it's really going to be more of a, yeah. I think it's really, for me, it would be dictated based on matchup. I have the option to start them on the
Right.
board, and start them behind cover and just run forward. Or, like I said, I could deep strike them to be an issue. And that's one of the games I won at Dallas Open was because I deep struck a unit of Terminators. I rapid ingressed a unit of Terminators, right, and onto his home objective and burned it. Right? And I think that rapid
Nice.
ingress really does kind of change that equation because it lets you bring them in your opponent's turn, so they will be able to move normally in yours. So, and with things like
Right.
Deathwing Knights, where they are durable enough to survive the potential slapback, that's good. That's real nice. So, now
I
I
find it
think
interesting there's no librarians and Terminator armors as characters. Like we've had the lieutenant, we've had the captain, or the librarian, and not the. We've had the chaplain and the ancient Terminator armor and the
Ancient and
captain,
the
but nobody's
Captain.
going for the sustained hits. So people are not feeling the vibe that they need the sustained hits.
I did it a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was fine. Like, no, I mean, Deathwing Knights
Okay.
have so many attacks that, on average, you're going to get 3 or 4 extra hits with this into your oath target, which is good.
All right.
It is all right. And then he gives them a shooting attack, right? And he gives them the protection against psychic, right? But which is, I mean, you really need that, right? You've got the Watcher, I guess. And there's just not that. I guess if you're at the point where you're checking into specific matchups and you have like Thousand Suns is a real problem for you, then that could definitely be then Terminator
Right.
Librarians could definitely be an upside. But I'm actually working on painting one right now. I was painting one last night,
Oh,
right?
nice.
Because I think it's a good option, and it's not something you see very often. So, and he would I think and he would probably benefit from things like Honor Vehement and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That one.
I go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that also reminded me of like how Dark Angels Terminator tech used to be that you did take the shooty Terminators over the Knights because of the same like movement issues of like, well, if they deep strike in and you can't do anything other than shoot, at least you get to do that, and that's where like Deathwing Knights had a big period of suffering as deep striking units threats because it's like if they don't make the 9-inch charge, they don't do anything at all other than just get shot
Yeah.
at, and that's where like that might be why people are looking at it and going, well, why would I put sustained hits on them with a character when they don't have guns? Whereas like if I had a regular Terminator squad, I'm getting sustained hits on my storm bolters and the assault cannon, and then when I go in and punch stuff with power fists, I also get sustained hits. And but you then don't have the durability that you're looking for because they don't have the -1 damage.
Yeah. I think like once again, we haven't really seen this, but there may be an argument like if you're going to take a big squad of Deathwing Terminators, like just regular Terminators, then a
Yeah,
librarian with the Deathwing Assault, so he can do the 3-inch deep strike, right, or on turn one, and then
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so you can get all the storm bolters in play. You can get your flamers or your plasma cannons going, and then that's enough dice that sustained hits really does matter. So, but
Right.
once again, that's not something we see people get played at a high level because it's just not as good as Deathwing Knights. So, yeah. Okay.
But still sounds fun.
It still sounds fun. Yeah. And just like saying, and there is definitely an advantage to say, hey, guess what? Your line is moving to me. I can just boop 3 inches in front of me. Here's 10 Terminators as a wall. And
Yeah.
yeah. Now, the I have been kind of falling into the trap of like I need a character to lead everything, and I don't with Deathly Knights. I think they're killing enough that they don't need characters to make them more killy. I think that the Ancient is probably a really good choice because it does something they don't otherwise have access to, which is makes them an actual like OC threat, like an objective threat.
Right.
So, and the captain, is very versatile because he gives them the ability to armor contempt for free, or honor the chapter for free, or do their like independent, like whatever stratagem is going to benefit them the most of the time, like that -1 to moving and shooting that would basically be free, right? The fight on death, right, and inner circle task
Right.
force, right? All those things, right? It's just really good. So, um, yeah, I don't know.
The utility play.
I think that probably one character, like putting one character in for one of your squads of knights is going to be useful. Which leads me to my next question: is how many squads of Deathwing Knights do you think you need? I've seen a lot of talk on this, on the interwebs in the last few days. Do you need 3? Can you get away with 2? Because 3 is a lot of points, man. That's that's 700 points for 3 squads of Deathwing Knights.
Yeah, that's a big commitment, and that's always been the thing with Terminators, right? Is you going back several editions, is like you can bring a squad, and most people have enough tech to kill a squad of whatever Terminator you put in front of them. Even if it's 10 of them, people generally have enough tech in their army and firepower or something to kill 10. It's when you gut the rest of your list of all your other utility pieces and go, well, now there's 20 Terminators, there's 30 Terminators, right? In this case, the 15 Deathwing Knight Terminators. You can kill 1. You can probably kill 2 if you try really hard. You aren't going to kill all 15 of them. And that's where like those nasty like 30-40 Terminator lists that we were talking to Alan about back in the day, and Charlie Andre too, like those lists were built around the idea like nobody can kill all 40. So it's about how do I get the most out of the 30 or so that are going to die during the game, and with the last 10 win the game with positioning.
Yeah, I had you're negating your opponent's rules, right? Like with that list, right? with Inner Circle, with the permanent transhuman, it was, guess what? All your rules that make you more effective and better at wounding and high strength, none of that matters. I just don't care, right? which is a little oppressive, and I can understand why they went away from it as much as it was awesome. But the Deathwing Knights being -1 damage, right, and all that kind of stuff is, it's like, hey, can you, like, there's so much 2 damage stuff out there that it just really just takes the teeth out of it, right? So 3 damage stuff, right? It takes 2 hits to kill a single guy, right? And those rare things that are like 4 damage, like what is it? That Necron tank that has like the flat 4 damage hits. It just completely frustrates that damage profile, because like, -1 damage, I got 1 wound left, and kills another guy. So yeah, it's really good. I don't know. I personally think that 2 is probably enough, but we've seen plenty of squads playing with 3. Because I just want, I don't feel comfortable leaning that hard into the ground game. I want more stuff to play objective and shoot. But obviously it works, and I've heard people say on Facebook that like, hey, I can deal with 2, but 3 squads I don't have the answer for. So anyway,
right. And there's also the classic 40k mentality of you can have a cool toy, but if you want to play with it, you better bring 2. Mm-hmm. So at least 2. Bring it, because if you're like, I have a squad of Deathwing Knights. Yeah. Someone's gonna be like, oh, that's nice. It's now gone.
I think in the especially in the coming months, people are going to be teching into killing Deathwing Knights. So, stuff that ignores damage modifiers, that ignores like the Grey Knight Grandmaster that ignores modifiers, right? The Necron Silent King may start showing up again because he has an aura that lets you ignore. I don't know if it's just hit modifiers or if it's all modifiers, right? I don't know. Like I could see
Champion of Humanity.
Champion of Humanity, yeah. Death Guard, like Morty has the aura of ignore modifiers, right? I don't know. So I think this is enough that people may start to like actually start to tech into it. But anyway, so I think 2 is the minimum if you're gonna play Terminator ground game at all, right? And why wouldn't you? Because they're so good and they're so Dark Angel-y, right? That you need to have 2 squads. So all right, lastly, Inner Circle companions. Thoughts and feelings, go.
I need to go buy 3 more because I'm all about this whole concept of having 6 dudes that have damage 2 swords with that neg 2 profile that they can run out and just slap things and interact, debuff other people. I like the idea of the librarian giving a little bit of durability, but I'm also feeling like points wise, like they might just be in that sweet spot of like, you know what? I don't care if they die as long as they kill the one thing I send them to kill first. And that might be one of those, that you're looking at them as a trade piece and less as a mainstay piece, because then that saves you points to put because your mainstays, right, are going to be things like your Deathwing Knights. Like, this is the thing that I'm putting on the table, and I'm expecting it to be here a while. And again, like, you can do that with the companions, but you could also just, dump lighter, gasoline on them and be like, just let them go. And that's where, like, the one list, Alex's list, where it had Asmodee in there, that was clearly it's like the guy in Mad Max where he takes the nitro and he's like spraying it directly into the engine. It's like, that's what Asmodee with Inner Circle companions. I was like, there's a nice cautious way, and then there are those of us that just like to ride the Fury Road and be witness while we do it.
But do you have it in you to make it epic?
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So okay, I've played 2 games now with Inner Circle companions, and I'm a fan. I really am. 3 wounds each, so 2 damage stuff is gonna, I mean, Redemptors and Reachers pick them up a little bit, right? But
right.
So the Calibanite Greatsword being 4 attacks each at -2, damage 2 with lethal hits. So there's 6 guys. That's 24 attacks, right? With lethal hits, strike 6, AB2, damage 2. That's a lot, right? And they got big bases, and it's going to not be too terribly difficult to get them all in there, right? So I ran 6 of them with Azrael and an Impulsor, right? Turn 1, declared Assault Doctrine, jumped him out, advanced, charged, and just quite easily killed a War Dog in 1 activation, right? And then piled onto an objective or piled into another War Dog, right? And then they're really killy, right? I haven't had opportunity to use the Greatsword sweeps yet, but man, let's say the fact that they're OC2,
you'll find
it's just
some
a
bugs
lot.
someday.
We'll find some bugs, right? Or some orcs somewhere, right? The -1 to hit is really nice, or is really good. And I don't know, they're just for 180 points, right? They're just really efficient. All they needed was that -2. All they needed was the -2. It really is, right? So, and getting +1 to hit into characters is really good. So yeah, all they needed was the -2, as we very clearly said. So, but and being able to be an impulsor with a character. I guess that's also the really other thing that unlocks them as a good tech piece. I see a lot of people running 2 squads of them. Now, so there's a guy running around our local playing Inner Circle Task Force, and he's running 2 squads with a squad or 2 of Deathwing Knights and the Lion. And what he's doing with the Inner Circle with the companions is he runs 2 squads of them, and he puts both squads into the super party bus, i.e. the Land Raider Redeemer.
Okay.
So the Land Raider Redeemer just runs straight to the middle of the board, overwatches whatever it can overwatch, and then if it dies, okay, now you have 2 squads out there. One's got a Judiciar with it, so it's fights first, and the other one's got some other character. I don't remember what he was doing. Right, and they can interleave so that if you're in charge of them, you have to go to the ones that fights first in first, and then the next turn they just go out there and start doing their thing. And he has been doing a lot. He just mowed through Tyranids, he mowed through Black Templars, did a lot of good work. I've been running him in an Impulsor and thought it was great. So, last week I played him into, like I said, Chaos Knights, and, they chopped up a couple of War Dogs without that much of an issue, right? The week before that, I played into Admech, and they stayed in the Impulsor for 3 turns until I was able to get the drop out and charge in some Chicken Walkers, right?
Nice.
And, yeah, so it's pretty, like I said, I like them. They're good. I don't know if I'm going to go 2 squads. I think 1 for me is good enough for now. I'm curious to hear what I don't think they're durable enough to have 2 squads. That's just me. But because there's a real opportunity for them to just go point, click, delete something. But at 180 points, okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
I guess
less than 10% of your list.
Yeah, is pretty much good for their high output threat, right? And they're going to flip objectives for you, right? And they just look cool. This is a really good looking bot. 7 levels. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay.
Alrighty.
Yeah. More to come. I guess I could. So, well, actually, I could I have two lists I can discuss, or a list I can discuss. So I played this list last week, and I'll shoot it over to you so we can put it in the show notes, or put it in the thing. So this was kind of like my first real serious list that I decided to play with, and I think I can improve this even more, and I'll tell you what I want to do with it, because I was a little bit limited on points in model completion. So I've got Azrael. It's a Gladius task force. So I've got Azrael, a lieutenant with fire discipline, a combi weapon lieutenant with artificer armor, just because I needed to fill points, and the lion.
Okay.
Right, and then I've got a 5-man intercessor squad, an impulsor with a shield dome, 2 squads of Deathwing Knights, ones with maces, ones with swords, a full squad of Hellblasters, a squad of infiltrators, a squad of Inner Circle companions, a Redemptor, and a scout squad.
Okay.
So
yeah, I like that.
Hellblasters for shooting, right? The 3 squads of the 2 squads of Knights and the Lion are just like here, deal with this.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Then the companions and the impulsor to move and deal with things. The scouts, the infiltrators to lock out your mid board and maybe do a little bit of jumpy stuff. And the Redemptor to be another big shooting. Like, it's because I wanted 3 damage AP4 shooting. That's also kind of hard to deal with. But yeah, I played this into a Chaos Knight list, piloted by a very, very good player in our local named John, and it just wrecked house, right? He did not honor the threat of the assault doctrine, so he moved up to the mid board, did a little bit of pot shooting, killed a Deathwing Knight, and then said, "Okay, pass the turn," and then I declared assault doctrine. The Lion rolled like a 6 to advance. One of both squads of Deathwing Knights rolled 5s to advance. The Inner Circle companions rolled like a 2 or a 3, and then the Hellblasters moved out and then shot like his one big Cerastus Lancer lost 14 wounds due to Hellblaster shooting. The Inner Circle companions with Azrael charged into a War Dog, killed it. One of the squads of Deathwing Knights charged into another War Dog, killed it. The Lion charged into the Cerastus, left it on like I think 2 or 4 wounds because he spiked his invul saves pretty good, and then survived the punch, the slap back, and it just really, it was.
Yeah, no, that's
oh no,
yeah,
and the next turn, just 3 more little knights died. The Cerastus died. The Lion went down due to a War Dog punchy fist. Because he had sustained hits, and I rolled like 3 1s or 3. I failed 3 up invuls, but look, he did the thing, right? And then I was a little concerned at the beginning of turn 3. I failed 5 out of 5 battle shock checks.
Ooh.
Because against instant Chaos Knights, anything that is below half strength on turn 3, below full strength or starting strength on turn 3 has to take battle shock at -1. Literally everything failed.
Oh, that's no good.
Oh well. And I had enough CP. I was like, I could have auto passed one, and I realized I should have, because that way I could have, used honor the chapter on one of them to, probably done a better job at killing one of the other knights. But like it was basically he conceded at the bottom of 3. So, and it did a lot of work. So. Yeah, the Lion advancing and charging is good, right? Lion fighting first is good. This is also, I didn't realize, I had been playing a rule wrong for the bulk of 10th edition. So if you elect to make a consolidate move, you're required, first test is so I decide or do not decide to make a consolidate. If I elect to consolidate, I am required to make it into engagement range of any enemy unit within my consolidate distance. If I can't, then you're allowed to consolidate towards the nearest objective, so long as you can get on it. And I thought that was like you can consolidate to an objective or to engagement range. That's not the case. You have to do engagement range of an enemy model first. Failing that, you can consolidate onto an objective. So my bad. I've been misplaying that. Now I understand that the rule is more clear.
Well,
so okay.
So that happens.
Yeah. So anyway, so I thought that was a pretty good list. I think I'm going to change it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the where'd it go? I'm going to drop the combat lieutenant because he didn't really do a whole lot for me. Put the librarian back in. He's going to go with the inner circle companions. So then I'm going to change it to Azrael, librarian, lieutenant, lion. I'm going to do 10 intercessors instead of 5, and Azrael's going to go with them as kind of like they're going to be my like late game, kind of second punch. And then I've got the 2 Deathwing Knight squads, a Gladiator Lancer, the Hellblasters Inner Circle Scouts, and then 5 Assault Intercessors jump packs. Because I want to try the jump pack intercessors. So, and I think I need more range shooting in the repulsor. The Redemptor. The gun's just too swingy for me. So,
right.
Yeah. Oh well. But is what it is. So, but man, those Deathwing Knights they're just doing work. They're doing so good. So,
oh man, now I really want to get some out on the table. Get some of the new ones at Gen Con when the big boys roll in and get my hands on it. Yep, sure. All right, so speaking of Inner Circle Companions, that was this month's hobby challenge. So it sounds like you got some done, Heath. In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw some pictures.
Yep. So just throw for the YouTubes. Here we go. There's one of my my spooky boys. Yep. So I painted these with my army painter stuff. So I was able to use the army painter triads to try and get the red robes. And then for the black armor, it took me a little bit to figure out, but black armor is the Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl Dark Neutral Gray is just chef's kiss for black Space Marine armor, right? And then highlight with a lighter gray. I think it's like a Vallejo game color Stonewall gray is what that bottle is.
Okay.
So yeah, and really nice. I'm trying to work out they have a lot of really cool like writing, like inset inscriptions on their swords, and I'm trying to. I saw some cool techniques with oil paints to make like a really bright white inset in that, so that you can do like an OSL effect from it. And I got the wrong thing to thin oil paint. I got thinner instead of white spirit, so my bad. I was like, why isn't this mixing? Well, because it's thinner. It's supposed to clean the paint off, not. Okay, so thinning means something different in oil paints than it does in acrylic paint. But, oh well. So yeah, and then I also finished my squad of sword Deathwing Knights, which are these guys.
Oh yeah, those looked gorgeous when you sent that.
Yeah,
to me.
So these are the Deathwing Knight, the Dark Angel Inner Circle Knight Cenobiums from Forge World. From the Heresy, and that's the kit that I got at Warhammer World, 2 years ago, right? And so I've now had the opportunity to and the motivation to finish painting them up. So I pumped that out real quick. And once again, black armor, right? Red. It just the black and the red looks just so sharp. It looks so sharp together. So anyway, so I got 5 of those guys done. I didn't put shields on them because look, they're great models, and those models come with a sword and a plasma caster on their left wrist, and I elected to just leave that on there instead of trying to like kit bash a shield on there. And I think I'm just going to be okay with that. And anybody who doesn't like it
why not?
Can just F off. So yeah. So they're very clearly Dark Angel like knights, like Deathwing Knights. So yeah. But as I'm kind of going through this, it looks like all these. Like the Inner Circle Companions are obviously they're risen, right? They're redeemed Dark Angels from the fall of Caliban. So that makes sense for them to be in black armor. And I was like, well, if you had risen veterans that had Terminator armor, why wouldn't they do the same thing, right? And so I think that's why I painted black. Is because they are Deathwing Knights. They are risen veterans that are in Deathwing armor. and so that's kind of the way I'm justifying it. So it looks
And
cool.
who would
It
know
looks cool as
better
hell.
to yeah, and who would know
Mhm.
better than to catch the fallen than those that were once the fallen?
Yeah, yeah. So
It's not like
yeah,
they don't
so I'm
already know
working
this.
on.
It's not like they don't already know the secret.
So on my table right now, I've got another. I've
Yeah,
got a Deathwing Knight Captain in the same pattern, which I was working on last night,
yeah,
not done yet. And then I've got the Librarian, which I showed you earlier. Right, so that's kind of what's on my table right now.
yep,
So what you got?
nice. So I got my dudes built, and I actually got them primed because we actually had a good weather day in between all the rain we've been
Mm-hmm.
having. I finally had a day to prime, so I didn't just get them built; I got them primed. Uh, Started with a black primer. Then I like a little bit of blue in my armor. It's in my greens on my Dark Angels, regular guys, and then it's in my black armor and my bikes, and in these guys because again I went with the whole like oh they're risen, so they should be in the old Heresy armor. And to get that first load, I'm usually use the Incubi Darkness from Games Workshop because it's got that sort of smoky blue to it,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
that's what I use to kind of if it's something alive, like it's guys in armor, I like it to have a little more warmth. It adds more warmth, I feel like. Whereas, like, if I'm doing bikes or dark talons or dark shrouds and I'm doing black and then grays and then lighter grays, it looks. It's like when you're doing leather with browns, like it just gets kind of cracked and old looking, and it doesn't look like something that someone's maintaining on a daily basis the
Hmm.
way you would expect some like if I'm a space marine I'm going to make sure my space marine armor is nice and it's like up to date and it doesn't look super old and faded. And I always felt like when I first started painting Ravenwing and things that going all grays made my stuff look a little older than what I wanted it to feel, and it didn't feel alive. But having that little touch of blue in the paint makes it have life, I feel like. And then
Like
the thing I felt like it was
like like blued steel. Like a lot of
yeah
like I don't know what the actual chemical process is, but for treating like firearms, you
yeah
can like the steel being getting that bluing to it. I don't God, it's driving me crazy. I don't know what that's actually called other than bluing. But yeah, it has that like it has a bit of a warm tone to it. And if it's a dark,
yep
preservation, right, dark, dark coating with the bluing, that would kind of look like that. Yeah. There's another color called yeah, nope. It's a Vallejo color. No, that's not it. It's called Somber Gray, which is kind of like that, which
okay
I've used as like my mid highlight for Ravenwing in the past. It's got a bit of it's almost a purple cast to it, and it kind of provides
okay
that
yeah yeah
it's a warm gray shadow. So
okay.
maybe take a look at that. Yeah.
And then sort of the new tech, I went through to a game store a couple of months ago, and they were getting rid of all their army painters, so I bought a bunch of just random colors I know I didn't own for like $1. And so the one I pulled out of the box for this is called Gorgon Hide, and it's just a blue gray
Yeah.
that's really really light. And so because I looked at these guys and went, they're a little too dark for my liking, and I hit them with a little bit of this with a dry brush, and all of a sudden like everything I wanted started to take place. And it's really obvious. I feel like because I've also worked on the Ravenwing Knights with it, like you can kind of tell, hopefully, because I can just tell like where there's a difference between like where
I'll
the
need to see
guy
the better
is.
picture. Yeah, the
Gotcha.
camera's not as
Not
good, but I mean,
too. All right.
I
Well,
can tell it's
I'll get some
clean, but I can't
pictures
really see
in.
the different shading. Yeah.
But you can tell. Um, Hopefully, and like I said, I'll get some good pictures. You'll be able to tell. Some of them I over dry brush. Like this guy, you can really tell he's a little bit lighter. I haven't washed it yet, so that's going to definitely change the tone. Uh, but you can tell that the guy is a different color than the bike, even though they're both supposed to be black.
That's
And
good. That's one of the
got the
things I
same
always
thing on
run into
Asmodai.
is how to separate the biker from the machine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, so that's why I like that. But yeah, adding this like blue, light blue gray, I've never used it before, but it came out really well. So that was kind of a nice experiment that popped off for me with
Okay.
this month's hobby challenge. So is there what are we feeling for next month, Heath? I don't think I
Oh
built
man,
my
I even.
Terminator librarian yet either. Yeah, this is like the
um.
worst part of the show
Yeah. A couple. Didn't
because
even think about it. A couple
we were like, what
of
are we gonna do now?
yeah. Terminator characters. Yeah, I have Terminator characters I'm working on, and I still have my whole Deathwing Assault box. I need to do. I
I still haven't built
could
my
probably do.
Leviathan Terminators because I finally have the upgrade sprue, so I can actually upgrade them and make them more Dark Angel-y. So that's something I could work on.
I haven't built mine either. So
yeah, probably for the same reason. You're waiting for them bits.
Yeah.
All right, we can do some Terminators, some Deathwing stuff. I mean, Inner Circle Task Force, pretty good.
Sure.
Undefeated champions. We might as well go for it, right?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I like it. Let's do it. All right. We're going to have an abbreviated community comments. So those of you that commented, thank you so much. We appreciate them. We loved reading through all of them for the last 2 videos. But as we said, we had almost 1,000 views, and the inundation of videos comments of the videos was just awesome. And we just unfortunately don't have time to cover it all. But we're gonna try and get to some of the big highlights that we saw, like the big comment, like the big chunky comment. So we don't really want to, not to discriminate against the little comments, but there were some good big chunky ones that we're gonna try and look at here to close out the show today. But please, comments big or small, please keep commenting, because you never know when we're gonna go, oh yes, this is one. Because sometimes you don't have to put a big block of text to have a real good zinger in there.
Yep.
So we'll go. So just keep on commenting. So, looking at the first one we got here, this is Shembri89. So glad I found this. I'm fairly new and really wish there was more Dark Angels content. I really think it is the faction for new players, since almost everyone starts with Space Marines but don't want to be cliche and paint them blue. Do hate, though, that every single battle report I've seen since Pariah Nexus, they've lost. No idea why, but it just feels bad. Man,
I think, battle,
this is where I really
battle reports, I don't
studio.
know. Yeah. Battle reports, I don't know it depends on the channel you're watching. Some of them are definitely more narrative focused. Right. Some of them, they're really trying to, create, I don't know, I guess it depends on the channel you're watching. I don't watch a huge amount of battle reports because I just don't have time, but, I love, tabletop tactics, but they are not the, the most competitive. Their production value and just the presenters are top notch, like top tier, right? Top 2 and not second. Art of War, really high level stuff. I just can't get into the people. I don't know. I think that Tabletop Titans is probably, if I was going to name one, that's probably the ones I think is the best mix of, top tech and, production value / good quality presenters. Right. But even then, some of them, right? They don't, not every channel has a faction expert, right? My buddy Joe always loves Tabletop Titans. He's a member. He does all stuff, and he just rails all the time. It's every time they play Necrons, they do it so bad. They don't know how to play my faction. Yeah. I was well, there you go. Maybe that's the case. Maybe they don't have a faction expert on, right? Or they're trying to do something that looks flavorful or looks fluffy, what people would think is a typical of that list or that faction, and isn't necessarily representing what you're going to see high level, right?
Watch John Lennon at the World Team Championships, because they're going to get some high level
Dark Angels play. He's playing Dark Angels
battle reports.
Yeah.
All right, so that's our suggestion there. So going on, we've got Art Cool 03. Cool to find a podcast that talks about Dark Angels. I think the biggest problem, even with the changes, is finding units that can deal consistent damage while not having access to vowed targets or oath targets or strat combos. Consistency seems to be the real issue, and with Strike Masters and Talon Masters no longer being a thing, and no clues that they'll ever return with solutions, this will remain an issue for some time. Okay, yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what you were talking about with that Redemptor, right, Heath? Where, there's no consistent, it spikes, it won't spike, and, you'd rather go with something with that,
Yeah, everybody wants consistency, and Space Marines, they don't always have consistency, right? You really need, I kind of agree with you, but I don't know if there's a solution to that.
Yep. So, awkwardly enough, though, while the Deathwing has expanded to include more types of things than Terminators, the strats and enhancements still scream Terminators if you want to maximize and open up your options, which is unfortunate. They removed chunks of the Terminator character support, and the Deathwing Command Squadron replaced it with Deathwing units that don't utilize anything to the same level of efficiency as Terminators, and Terminators as a whole are still in a rough spot in the game. I mean, that's kind of why they went in and made all those changes, right, with Inner Circle Task Force, right? They the original run, they did it. They thought it would be cool, fluffy. They being Games Workshop, right? They wrote the rules. They did it that way. It didn't quite come off. They've changed it again. And again, it's like they put new facade on the house, but right, if the house is still built on sand, right, the foundation is still a little rocky. That might be the issue.
I don't know. I agree that Deathwing, like they've definitely taken a lot of stuff out in the name of streamlining, which sucks. And we've commented on that in the past. I wish we still had a Deathwing command squad. I wish we still had unique Deathwing characters that weren't Belial, but we don't. And so until they decide to change. He also comments that Lazarus can't lead Devastators, which is true. And actually, I looked at what can lead Devastators, and it's basically nothing. Maybe an Apothecary. The rerolls being locked to the fight phase with Martial Mastery. That is true. Yep. So I just don't know what to do with Lazarus. I just don't.
Use his body parts to make cool other models, which is what I did. Buy that kit and then use his bits to make cool other characters. That's what I did.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think if you need to make Hellblaster's Deathwing and you've already got Azrael and Asmodai, right? Lazarus. Okay, there you go. But cool.
Yeah.
All right. At Piotr Yeski says, unless there's some stat changes planned for the future, companions are still worse than the Blade Guard because they have no invul save. Azrael can give it to him, but that limits it to one good unit of companions per army, and Azrael cannot join something else, and he has to do melee. I believe as a reply to that comment, someone else at VTS55 commented that their damage output far exceeds the Blade Guard veterans, which I do agree with because they're higher strength and they have lethal hits and sustained hits. And they are a pure update versus Blade Guard vets, except for the durability change, which is fixed with a leader, i.e. a librarian. So I believe I agree with this. We've commented on it extensively, right? Okay, Gerard
and the lists from this month show that.
Yeah. So Gerard commented about me about my comments about wanting to get a D&D model for my wife. Separate thing. He also says, great show. After Toby's comments on Hellblasters, he got curious to see how often they popped up in the top performing lists. And I believe that we've talked about this in today's show. Over the first weekend of the Nexus meta, one of the lists that went 4-1 at Glasshammer had 20 Hellblasters, and last weekend a list went 3-2 had 10. But Deathwing Knights and Inner Struggle Companions certainly appeared in more high-performing lists.
Hey folks, this is Bailey from Dank Wargaming with a little post-production message. A little bit after Heath and I stopped recording this month's episode of the podcast, Toby Bennett reached out to me on Facebook Messenger to admit that he was wrong about Hellblasters with Ezreal, as he just won a tournament with that combination. Now, even though Toby retracted his argument about Ezreal with Hellblasters, I'd like to point out that if you saw in this episode, or as you saw in this episode, that there are still plenty of lists doing well in the top tables without any Hellblasters at all. So even though they may not be an auto-include for Dark Angels players, they're still a staple piece in our meta and in our arsenal as Dark Angels players, so please enjoy hobbying them up and putting them on the tabletop.
Okay, and then how about this right here?
Then Alan, that's a buddy of mine from college, I think, if I recognize that name. So he says, glad my gut was right about Battleline not being massive, and hyped to finally see Primarchs back on the table. Tesseract being usable was not on my bingo card. Yep, that's exactly who I think it is. Well, thank you, bud, for watching. And yep, Battleline, as we said, there's things that are Battleline, but it's still in that spot of since we don't have Battleline core tax like we used to with troop choices, it just isn't hitting the game isn't supposed to go that way, and but they just haven't got it figured out yet. So
they're trying not to make things compulsory, but they're trying to it's trying to be incentivized without being compulsory. So, which is good, which I think is nice. So, but it's just not really there yet. So, okay. All right. So Alan says, just to explain, WTC scoring is not common in the UK at all. Oh, really? This is news to me. All right. So the ITT use it. They feel it's the best way for scoring in teams, and Glasshammer wanted to use it for this tournament with the tweak that Toby explained. Right. So the reasoning is that it's not good enough to make the list that can score 100. You also need to stop the opponent from scoring, which is pretty much what I commented on, saying that it's to incentivize not only things that can score well, but also things that can prevent scoring. Right. So it opens up more styles of play. Right. So going to disagree on the Hellblasters things, especially in ICTF, where Azzy gives him Deathwing. So he's talking about Toby's aversion to Hellblasters. So now that indirect is less of a thing, they're even better. So the key is to start on the board, not a transport.
That's true.
Advance to where they're needed and shoot. Right. So people focus down and fine, they shoot back, and you're not shooting at my scoring units. And he says that he is fine with that. So Azrael also provides anti-melee threat if positioned properly in the unit. Okay. So yeah, Sid, I mean, I didn't say that I don't want to waffle here. I play Hellblasters, right? I think they're good.
Yeah.
They're kind of a crutch unit for me. It is, interesting to see what very high level players think about them. And obviously I said, Toby's got his opinion, and he's explained his reasoning why. And we've seen in today's, show that there are people that disagree with them and do well with it. So I'm glad that we've, kind of maybe sparked a little bit of a conversation about this, right? And get people to think about other ways to see it done. So, all right.
And I had a buddy reach out to me about it because he was playing Dark Angels at American Team Tournament, and he was like, "Oh, well, how do you do it?" And I said, "Dude, the way I look at it is I'm just as aggressive as I can possibly be with them. Like, they don't come out from wherever they are unless they can shoot and kill one thing and then try and charge something else. And you use them as a vehicle to get Azrael into combat, and then you save your honor of the chapter for them to try and make them punch a little bit above their weight." And obviously have an appropriate charge target. Like, I'm not going to go and make them fight a knight or something. But if there's a way for me to jump out, shoot something big and scary, and then, like, I think one of the last times I did this, they jumped out, they shot the orc war bikes, killed all of them, including the character, and then they charged into the grots and just started punching grots and kicking them up in the air like a football. And because I knew I had to kill the grots, because they were sitting on an objective and they were going to do grot things, and I didn't want that, but I can't run out, shoot the grots, charge the grots, and then let the bikes come and kill me. Like, no, kill the bikes, then charge the grots, and then bring in some other stuff to try and fight the stuff coming to come fight me, which was like 30 orc boys. So that didn't end as well as I'd hoped.
In Gladius, it's important to remember that Hellblasters natively have the assault keyword. So the turn to expose them to do what you're saying isn't the Devastator Doctrine, it's the Assault Doctrine. So you can advance, shoot, just not with Azrael because he doesn't have Assault, and then charge something else, right? And then, as you said, on the chapter. So that's good. So get him to do double duty, get the extra movement, which will let you hopefully tuck him in someplace. So, okay. All right. I think we're coming up on your time, so we should probably call it. Move on.
Yep, right. No worries. And just in case you're worried, Heath, I know we like to imbibe sometimes. This has just been iced tea. I haven't just sat here and drunk an entire glass of whiskey this entire podcast, because that's probably enough to kill me if I did.
Not that I would judge if you did, but it's we started at 9 o'clock in the morning for me. So, and I literally just woken up and I'm drinking my morning coffee right now. So
yeah, okay. And an excellent Lord of the Rings cup. So thank you all for listening to this month's podcast of the
Shall Not Pass.
Oh,
cheers!
Ooh, that should be like on the back banner of one of your of Belial or something. Just like scrape it clean and then write that on there. Put it on your ancient Terminator. Your Terminator ancient. Like, put it on his banner. You shall not pass, and then put him in there with the knights. All right.
We're on to something. All right, there you go.
Thank you all for listening to this month's episode of The Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast. Our next episode will come out in August. I'll have some fun stories about Gen Con, hopefully, to tell, because Gen Con will happen between now and the end, or the release of the next podcast. So please subscribe, like, and comment below if you are watching us on YouTube or listening to us on your preferred podcasting service. And last but not least, we would like to thank Purple Planet for the use of their music. Until next time, I'm Bailey from Dankless Wargaming.
And this is Heath, the same Sable, Hawaii.
Stay loyal, Angels.